questions on conflict based on certain assumptions. So, but maybe my assumptions are misplaced, and I just wanted to understand from your perspective, when you refer to conflict, what exactly do you mean by that in this situation? Who is conflicted?
So it would appear, or rather it is a fact from the documents, from the evidence we have received, that the lead counsel had received and accepted instructions from one of the institutions that was subject to the commission's inquiry, which institution is Social Security.
Okay.
And in fact, her firm, who the government contracted, as was evident in the personnel of the commission, because some of our staff, or one of our staff to be accurate, was part of the commission, was aiding her in the commission. Now, just before the commission was set up, about 2 weeks before, lead counsel herself appeared in a matter involving the MOJ, represented by the Director of Civil Litigation. In this very case, the Attorney General versus Yahya Jammeh. She appeared, and her firm continued to appear during the pendency of the commission. On the 29th day of June 2017, lead counsel appeared herself, that is before the letter came in, appeared herself and conducted a matter in court on behalf of Social Security.
Yes.
Social Security, who have a series of assets under their control, which was subject to the commission.
Yes.
Now, on the 31st day of July, as well, there was an appearance from her chambers.
Yes.
And the person that appeared is one Njai, the same person that is assisting her at the commission.
Yes.
Now, in my estimation, this is a clear conflict of interest that arose from the date of appointment. But yet it was not raised at that material point. So the ministry did not have it in consideration when appointing her. Of course, I say that, but in actual fact, the ministry was aware that she was actually in conduct of the case, because the Director of Civil Litigation, as I said, had appeared in that same case with her. That is the conflict I'm referring to.
My assumptions were correct. That's how I understood it as well. I just wanted to make sure that we were both that we the facts the same way.
That's fine.
Now that I have had time to reflect further, I'm even thinking, throughout my testimony, I've been saying potential conflict, which is why she disclosed. Now I am thinking whether there was actually even conflict, if you look at the facts. Because her interest, and the interest, her interest as counsel to Social Security, and the interests of the state were aligned in this case. Social Security was interested to recover monies that were unlawfully taken by the former president. The state was interested in recovering monies that were unlawfully taken by the former president. And so, in this particular instance, having reflected further during this short break, I am not sure whether there was conflict at all. But in any event, I think the fact that there could be conflict, the possibility of conflict, led her to declare the potential conflict and recuse herself.
At a much later date.
Yes, but I am thinking whether there was even conflict. I mean, I am seeing this very differently from the way you're seeing it, because the interests are aligned. Conflict vis-a-vis who? Vis-a-vis the former president?
Vis-a-vis the government. You just confirmed that both the government and
Social
lead
Security.
council's clients
Yes.
wanted the same thing.
That's right. Their interests are aligned.
Are aligned. And
That's right.
Wouldn't you say that that is cause to say that she has an interest in the matter? It's a similar interest.
But
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 if you're saying that appointment, one of the criteria was public perception,
no,
how would we
I'm-
justify that?
No, I didn't say public perception as a criteria. I said non-partisanship as a criteria. I did mention being Gambian, of high repute, competence, trustworthy, and of course non-partisanship. These were
Yes.
the five core criteria, in addition to other
Competence, etc. But
yes,
you
depend-
also did mention that the government wanted to act and to be seen to act.
Absolutely, and again, one of the objectives was for the public to demonstrate transparency and accountability to the public, so that the public can clearly see what was going on, and the public can see for
Exactly.
themselves the
Exactly.
action. But I'm saying, having looked at it again, I mean, I am not sure whether that would even qualify as conflict, because it's not like the government's interest and the interest of Social Security are at loggerheads. I think both the government and Social Security wanted the same results, to get back monies that were misappropriated or unlawfully taken by the former president.
Yes, but in that state, I agree, but in that statement, you oversight one fundamental thing, and which is that Social Security itself was a subject of that inquiry. And it being a subject, it was duty-bound to come before the commission to give evidence.
And that's why when it was their turn to be probed, council raised the issue of conflict.
Yes, but that's why I'm saying that that could have been seen a mile away from the 12th day of July, 2017.
But council, you have, I respect the view that you were sharing. But
Likewise.
But that's not the standard practice. The standard practice is when you are involved in a task and conflict, foreseeable or unforeseeable, arises at that point in time when the issue arises. That's when you recuse yourself from it. Otherwise, imagine nobody in this country would be appointed to any position, because ultimately you will have to deal with the situation where you are conflicted, either by reason of family or by reason of professionalism, etc. It's a small country. If we are going by your approach to conflict resolution, I don't think anybody will accept any appointments in this country, because at some point down the line, you're bound to run into a situation of conflict. So people accept appointments, they carry out their assignments. When they are faced with a situation of conflict, that's when they now take action to mitigate that conflict.
That is precisely my point. That when was the 12th day of July 2017. That's when the conflict arose, because lead counsel knew that she was representing Social Security in the courts, and Social Security would be a subject of the inquiry. Let me put it this way.
But she recused herself when it was time to probe Social Security, and I appointed another counsel.
Let me put it this way. Could the lead counsel have represented Social Security before the commission?
I would think no, she wouldn't have.
Because it would just muddy the waters.
Yes, and that's why she recused herself.
All right, I would leave that point again to the committee. Mr. Tambadou, would you be surprised to know that there are 5 other institutions that were looked at by the commission that lead counsel had affiliation with, from the evidence we have received?
Please enlighten me.
In total, 6. Of course, we have discussed Social Security. There is GAMPET, GAMPET. NAWEC, Gamtel, MSA, and crude oil.
I mean, you said there are other state-owned enterprises listed. I'm not sure whether those ones are listed here except for Gamtel and Nawek. But in what capacity was lead counsel involved with these state-owned enterprises?
I believe as counsel.
On a retainer basis or on an ad hoc basis?
Those details are not before the committee. But the fact is that she's had an extensive engagement, not with one institution, not with two, not with three, but with 6.
If it's on a retainership long term, that would raise concern, certainly. But if it's on an ad hoc basis, for instance, instructing her to carry out a particular action for them, I wouldn't think those would be enough to raise issues of conflict. But certainly, I would like to know more about the relationship.
Sure, and I'm sure when it reaches the time for the lead counsel to be before the committee, we would get clarity on that issue. So I would not belabor on the point. I would just put it that indeed there was a conflict, and the conflict arose on the 12th day of July 2017, and that conflict was not declared.
I am not sure you can make that conclusion, Council. The whole point here is to establish the facts and to allow the committee to draw their...
that's why I'm making the submission. I'm making a put.
Yeah, what you're saying, you're establishing as a matter of fact. And here we are, there's even disagreement as to whether or not the timing of the declaration of the conflict is based on your view or mine. So there's no agreement on that, and I respect your position.
That's fine.
I'm just saying your position is very idealistic. I'm not sure it's in the real world, particularly here in this country.
Then perhaps the committee is in la la land.
Well,
because this is the committee's position.
Is it? Okay.
It is indeed. All right. So lead counsel appeared severally. Her firm appeared severally in the case. You did not consider that sufficient to raise any flags?
She raised the flag at the time that she was supposed to raise it, before the commission started its inquiry on Social Security.
Okay, let's agree on this and move. What time was she supposed to raise it?
At the time that she did, before the commission started probing into Social Security. She declared it, she recused herself, I appointed another counsel to step in.
When did she get knowledge of that conflict?
I don't know. I can't speak.
When did she receive her letter of appointment?
Around the same time that the commissioners received theirs, I believe.
That would be the 12th day of July.
Or perhaps not around that date. I can't remember exactly.
Yes. Within that range of the 12th day of July 2017.
I suspect she must have received hers before the commissioners did theirs, because we worked with her before we started working with the commissioners, because she was the one I was appointing directly.
And within that period of appointment, because she responded 4th, if I'm not mistaken, 24th of July. I believe you have that piece of evidence with you.
You mean her response to me for her appointment?
Indeed.
Yes, 24th of July 2017. That's right.
That was after the commission was set up, and now we are getting revelations that that was after you had engaged her and you were working together. So she was well aware that the issue of Social Security, Gamtel, NAWEC would come up. But that was not declared at that material moment. And that's the qualm of the committee.
Again, my response would be this. I don't know the nature or extent of the relationship with the other state-owned enterprises. But like I said, if they were on an ad hoc basis, I wouldn't be concerned about that. If there were more of long-term engagement, such as retainership, then that would raise concerns. But insofar as Social Security is concerned, I think she did the right thing by declaring her conflict at the point that she did, just before the Commission started probing into Social Security.
All right, Honorable Chair, again, we're at a deadlock, and I would submit to the committee.
I don't think it's a deadlock. It's a difference of opinion,
Yes,
Council. We have different views.
All right, let me use...
and that's normal
It
in
is
our,
normal.
in
It is
our
normal.
field.
It
So-
is indeed. And I would say that we have a difference of opinion, and I would submit that the committee find that there was indeed a conflict, and that conflict was foreseeable as of the 12th day of July 2017.
That's okay. That's okay. The committee will take care of that.
Maybe,
Now-
Mr. Chair, the question for me is not whether it was foreseeable or not. The question for me was what action was taken to mitigate the conflict. And the action that was taken was to declare it and recuse herself and then be replaced by another council. There will be conflict. There will be conflict.
Yes, but the issue is when was the conflict declared? That is the issue. That is the contention. When was the conflict declared?
Exactly.
And I keep...
I think Council is right. You know, when he started the question, he said when the interest was declared, because he was talking about on the 12th day of July when lead counsel was appointed. For him, Council should have told you, as the appointing authority, that perhaps those conflicts will arise as the Commission starts its proceeding. So that did not happen. That is where I think he is
Yes.
trying to.
And thank you for providing that additional clarification, Mr. Chair. Except that for me, who had dealt with council at that time, I believe her response to me, to my question as to whether there was any reason why she couldn't take on the assignment, her response was qualified. There was no reason why she couldn't take on the assignment, but that if ever there was a point where she had to raise issues, she would raise it with me. And that's what she did. And based on my own personal experience, that's very normal. I mean, as of now, where in my current position, that's exactly how we approach issues. The issues are dealt with as they arise.
Yeah,
But perhaps to
I just want to seek a clarity on this specific issue.
okay, you go ahead. I have a question though, but I allow you to go on first.
Okay. I just want to understand, Honorable, around the conflict that the lead council is trying to figure out. I heard you mentioning about Social Security repeatedly. Was that the only entity that she reported to be conflicted with, or were there other entities that she was equally conflicted with?
To the best of my recollection, Social Security was the only state-owned enterprise she raised with me as an issue. Yes. Okay.
Honorable Chair, I would move on.
Just before
Okay.
you go, I just wanted to take Honorable back a bit. When you were answering question, I remember Councillor asking you about lead council's declaration of interest as an independent commission, as you allude. It would have been, don't you think it would have been better for the lead council perhaps to talk to the commission, because there is a chairperson that was, appointed to run the commission, to lead the commission rather. And council was operating under that commission, if I am right, even though you are the appointing authority. Don't you think the chairperson of the commission should have known those interests even before it reaches you? Because the chairperson is the one responsible for running the commission.
Yes.
But rather, council, lead council coming to you directly and then, bypassing the chairperson. How do you see that?
I am not sure because I wasn't there, so I don't know what communications lead council had with the commissioners or the chair. So I cannot say whether she informed the commission or she didn't. But given what I know about her professionalism, I'll be very surprised if she didn't inform the commission beforehand and before coming to me and raising it. But I can't vouch for it one way or the other because I don't know what happened there. But I'll be extremely surprised if she didn't mention it to the commissioners before coming to me.
But at this point, if lead council should declare, this was done verbally, or was it written?
It was done verbally to me.
Okay.
Yes, it was done verbally to me. I don't recall whether it was followed by a letter, but certainly it was done verbally to me.
Okay, Council.
Honorable Chair, I just want to get advice from the high table. I had earlier gotten instructions that at 6 I should wind up, and as council I need more time. However, the issues I'm about to delve into might take us 45 minutes, an hour. So I would suggest that we can end it here. However, we are in receipt of an application by the witness, and perhaps he can make his application for the committee to determine.
Thank you, Council. Yes.
And so, my apologies. And in that case, we would end the sessions here today. If the members wish to ask questions, then I'll pass the baton on to the members. Yes.
Mr. Chair, with your permission, just wanted to say that I had given myself this week, the whole of this week, to be here, and I am at your disposal, and that includes even late sittings. I don't mind if we sit as late as you would allow, because unfortunately, Friday has to be my last day here, so I really don't mind coming and staying until late to provide you with the opportunity to ask me your questions. So it's up to you, really. I am at your disposal. But the application I wanted to make, Mr. Chair, is for you to reconsider the request that was made to me to look for documents from the Justice Ministry. I believe that the National Assembly is better placed to request for those documents, and I understand that a request was indeed made and some documents provided. I'm not sure whether if I also make the same request, anything different will be given to me. And besides that, I have practical challenges. I don't have an office in this country. It means I've been coming here every day until this time. I will struggle to find a window to write this request and send it to the High Court because of Honorable Member for Janjambue, who wants the decision of Justice Jaite, the vacation judge, I think, on an issue. So I want the committee to reconsider that for me, because it will be practically difficult for me to reach out to get those documents. But I believe the committee the National Assembly can request for those documents, and you stand a better chance of getting them done than I do. Please.
Okay, thank you so very much, Honorable. Now, I wouldn't want to give you a direct answer for now. We take note of the request. Of course, we will discuss it internally, and we will consider what will be the appropriate measure. Perhaps tomorrow we will communicate that to you. Okay?
Please.
Thank you.
Honorable Chair, if I can just write along the application to say that perhaps the emails, those are accessible. Those could be provided to the committee. Whatever decision the chair makes and with the committee, it should exclude the emails.
Instead of printing out the emails, may I forward them to you? Chair, I don't mind forwarding, so you can print them out, because I will struggle to find a printer.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's appropriate. Yes, you can forward them to the email. Okay. I mean, I think we can give him the email that we're using for him to forward all the emails there. Then we can take care of it.
I just want to add that we are in receipt of some emails, and we would tally the emails together. And you know, if you're sending it in soft copy, it needs to be the complete email trail.
Certainly, it will be all of it.
Good. Thank you, Chair.
That's okay. That's fine. Thank you. Yes, Honorable, we will get into another set of questions for now. I know members will also want to ask for more clarification on the issue of the Janneh Commission, especially where Council was leading at. I personally don't have questions for now. I'll allow my colleagues, if any one of them have questions, will come in. Honorables? Yes, Honorable Sar will come first.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Tambadou, you made a request, so I will jump that question because it was about the FIU request I made to you yesterday. Honorable Tambadou, when it comes to the issue of commissioners and then the secretary to the commission that you recommended, were they the only people that you recommended, or they were a list of people that you recommended to come together and then you made your wettings?
They were the only people that I recommended. There were no other people who were recommended.
Were they the only qualified Gambians to be called upon, or could I make it open to allow others to come on and then the best out of them?
Well, for starters, the president has a prerogative to appoint anybody who satisfies the criteria for appointment under the Constitution. So it is the president's prerogative. I only made the recommendation to the president, and he made the appointment. In terms of making the recommendation, whether I looked at other possibilities, no, I had my criteria at the ministry. Like I said, this was informed by my personal experience in the constitutional amendment process, and I thought, you know what, I am going to headhunt people to man certain activities, so that when things go wrong and I am blamed, I will know that I am the one who is responsible because I am the one who appointed them. But what I didn't want is to open these processes, lose management of it. Somebody else is appointed who perhaps turns out to be a bad choice, and then things go wrong, and then they come after me again. So I would rather make the conscious decision and recommended these people specifically to the president. With the exception of council, who was appointed by myself, the 3 commissioners and the secretary were appointed by the president on my recommendation, and there were no other considerations for that. I had approached other people, certainly, who turned it down. Other people did turn it down, so I ended up having this group of commissioners.
Honorable Tambadou, coming to the issue of the TOR, I know you are more, but was it right to appoint somebody without giving that person a TOR to guide the party?
There was a TOR. The TOR is in the legal notice. The TOR is what council refers to as the mandate. You could use those terms interchangeably, but their functions, their activities were clearly spelled out in the legal notice that established the commission. So there was a TOR. I think what council was referring to, I'm still grappling with the notion, is how they could function. I think that was left to the commission. They were the masters of their own processes, but they certainly knew what was asked of them in the legal notice.
Honorable Tambadou, some witnesses came here and they claimed not to receive TOR from their appointments, attached on their appointment. And some were just walking without nothing to guide them. Was that right?
You see, again, if I recall correctly, you may be referring to either the Secretary, Alaji Mamadi Kurang, or the DPS, Mr. Mutulai Shah. But the fact remains that they were going to be under the authority and guidance of the commissioners. So their work was to follow whatever directives the commissioners gave to them. And I think that was made clear to them. That's why they were asked to report to the commission, so that the commission will tell them what their role will be, what activities they may or may not conduct, etc. They were to be under the guidance and direction of the commission.
My concern with regards to this TOR, because you appoint somebody to give a person a responsibility without nothing to guide that person. During the process, if that person is assigned to certain responsibility, where is that person going to defend?
I don't think they were completely without guidance. I think the Commission of Inquiry Act provides some guidance. But in the end, if they are going to be subject to the authority or direction of the Commission, then clearly, if they, like any normal office, if you have a complaint, you complain to the head of entity. In this case, that would be the chair of the commission. So I don't think the lack of written terms of reference for the secretary, for instance, prevented them from carrying out their activities. If anything else, I think the fact that they were able to carry out some activity until there was conflict shows that they were clear as to what their responsibilities were under the guidance of the commission.
Honorable Tambadou, in your statement with regards to AMRC, you didn't mention AMRC that they were not given the responsibility to do the needful because there were questions about from the commission for them to be put on inquiries about their relationship with the former president. Did that happen?
Yeah.
Did that happen?
Did what happen? Whether
there was a commission, did they set up an inquiry against them?
Oh, did the government go on to look into the AMRC activities?
Yeah, with their identity with the former president.
Yes, not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge.
Yes, the commission looked into the activities of AMRC, but because of time, they recommended for the government to set up another body to look further into that. I am not aware of any other body that the government set up to do that.
Thank you. Honorable Tambadou, when it comes to the ministerial committee that was set up, have they ever presented a report to you or to the commissioners or to the president? The
ministerial committee was set up after the commission ended, and we did submit a report to cabinet. When I was there, we submitted a very comprehensive report to cabinet on our activities up to that point. Yes, we did submit a report.
Were you a member of that committee?
Absolutely, I was.
Did you sign that report?
Yes, there was a signed version of the report.
All members signed?
Every member of that committee signed that report.
Can you recall those members?
Yes, indeed. It was myself, the honorable member, the honorable minister for agriculture, the honorable minister for tourism, and the honorable minister for lands. And these were the four ministers that constituted the ministerial committee.
Or the former Secretary General part of the commission?
This former Secretary General did attend a few of the meetings of the ministerial committee, and I believe he would have signed the report as well. Now that you mention it, I am not very clear. I certainly know that he attended some meetings of the ministerial committee. Now I am not sure whether he also signed. I will not be surprised if he also signed the report that was submitted to cabinet.
Will it be a surprise to you to hear that some of them indicated that they never signed a report or even seen a report of the ministerial committee?
Members of the ministerial committee?
Yes, yes.
That would not be true. Not at all. In fact, the report was shared electronically with the secretary to cabinet, so that the secretary to cabinet would get all the other members sign the report, including myself. And if I am not mistaken, I may have kept a signed copy of that report. But certainly it was signed.
Do you still have a copy with you?
I will have to check. But
Please.
I certainly recall it was sent to the secretary to cabinet by email for him to print out and get the other members to sign.
Honorable Chair, if possible, can you request for that letter if it is with him? The report that they signed, the signed report.
I will look for the sign. I will look for a copy of the signed report. But certainly everyone signed and it was circulated to everyone.
Yeah.
Honorable sir,
yes.
if I could ride along your questioning, I just want to clarify who the SG
Secretary General.
was, Secretary General,
Yes.
and who was the SG?
Who was the SG?
Yes.
Is the current Vice President, His Excellency
Thank you.
Yalo.
That's fine. That's fine. And who was Secretary to Cabinet at the time?
It was Ibrahim Asisi. He was Secretary to Cabinet. It was to him that I sent the electronic copy of the draft report for the other members to sign.
Perhaps I would just direct my other comment to the chair to just say that we have not gotten there yet, but I cannot stop a member from asking a question. But if we can massage around those areas until we get around to them, kindly.
That's fine. That's okay.
Yes, Council. I was just going through the statement. That's why I brought up this issue. Honorable Tambadou, based on the Council's request, was there any account owned by the former president outside the Gambia?
I believe the Janneh Commission made findings with respect to properties that were owned by the former president. I cannot now recall whether we received information from the FIU about external bank accounts, but I will not rule it out. Right now, I cannot confirm or deny that.
So it's like we leave it hanging to...
I am not sure. Maybe by the time I wake up tomorrow after having my lunch and dinner, I'll remember. Right now, I am feeling like a badibunka.
Okay, I will allow you to have your dinner and then relax, to go over it, and if possible, to provide us with information. Because it's very key that we need to know, because there is a question I wanted to put towards this issue, but I will hang the question until you give us the rightful answer.
I will try to remember, but I am not sure whether there was evidence of a foreign bank account. There could well have been.
Honorable Tambadou, coming to the issue of frozen accounts, I have seen accounts that were not in the name of the former president, but in the name of a political party, and they were frozen. On what basis were they frozen?
Yeah. And that's why, if you recall my testimony on Monday, I did say that because of the period at the time, there was a lot happening. Things were moving very fast. The ministry was under a lot of pressure. It was overwhelmed. And some actions that we did were, if you like, default positions. So what we did was we identified all the assets that were linked to the former president, including bank accounts of the political party, the APRC, and froze them. And then what we would do, and I gave the example of the Janneh Foundation hospital in Bunung. When we froze their account, they came and said this was a government hospital. It was not a hospital belonging to the former president. So we went to court to vary the freezing order so that those accounts would be unfrozen. And I mentioned on Monday that the now Deputy Speaker, Honorable Sidin Yai, had come to see me. He had made an appointment to come and see me, together with the current Speaker, Honorable Abubacarr. For some reason, the latter did not come, but Honorable Sidin Yai came and made a request for the APRC bank accounts to be unfrozen. And I requested for him, he did mention that the bank account was belonged to the party, where individual members of the party were making their contributions. And you can confirm this with him. I did tell him if he brought evidence to show individual contributions from party members, I would go to court and unfreeze the bank account that belonged to the party. He never came back with that evidence.
Honorable Tambadou, with regards to parties' account, we all know political parties in this country. Members contribute, and when they contribute, maybe receipts are not given to them. There were 4 fundraising accounts that I have seen there. 4 fundraising accounts. They raised funds and they were deposited in those accounts. Was it legal to freeze those accounts?
It was legal. We went to court and obtained a court order. But like I said, it was our default position. We were not going to make any assumptions. And that's why I requested for evidence. If he had brought evidence to me, even in the form of electronic transfers where people are making contributions, I was open to the idea of unfreezing those accounts. I never wanted to create a new set of victims in a new Gambia. I wanted, in our quest to ensure justice for past victims, that we do not create a new class of victims, including political victims. And that's why I was, in principle, open to the idea of unfreezing the APRC accounts if only evidence was produced to us that it was based on members' contributions. But that evidence was never produced.
So it was like there were new victims that were affected during that period. Will you agree with me on that?
No, there were no new victims. This was our default position, and it was up to Honorable Sidi Njai and the APRC party to bring forward that evidence to me.
Honorable Minister, there was a push and pull between you and then the lead council with regards to conflict of interest. My question is, during the time you were appointing the lead council, under what capacity was he appointed? Was he appointed as Ami Bensouda, or was he appointed based on her farm?
I had engaged her as lead counsel, and I believe she agreed on terms under the auspices of Ami Bensouda and Co. And as you can see, the letter that she wrote to me on 24th of July 2017 is under her farm's heading, with the scope of works clearly identified. But my engagement was with her was at a more individual basis.
So it's like she was appointed through her farm's name, Ami Bensouda and Co., but that's why she replied to you through the farm.
Well, I'm sure even when she is writing in her individual capacity as counsel, she uses her farm's letterhead. So I will not base my assumption on the letterhead that was sent, on the basis of the letterhead that was used.
During her appointment, were there any correspondence between Ami Bensouda and Co. with other people who were affected or who were engaged in the commission? For example, Louis Prom.
For example, Mr. Prom.
Mr. Prom.
Augustus Prom.
Yeah, Augustus Prom.
To the best of my recollection, I know that the commission had appointed Augustus Prom as receiver over the Ozone Bay Hotel and Sunset Hotel, which was subsequently, I think they were subsequently replaced by Foresight Accountancy Firm. But there was engagement between the commission and Augustus Prom. I don't know whether that was counsel Ami Bensouda in her individual or in her capacity as counsel, but certainly the commission did engage Augustus Prom as receiver for those two hotels.
But they were correspondent from the farm to Augustus Prom.
I wouldn't know about that. I would like to see a copy of that if it exists, so that I know what the correspondence was about.
Okay.
Yes.
Honorable Tambadou, when it comes to the issue of receiving reports, as mentioned by you, they report to you because the list council was appointed by you, and then you made a proper vetting before accepting her appointment. Was there any point in time where she reports to you on her findings, and also to what level were those findings at?
There was never a time when lead counsel reported to me. She would only come to me when she or the commission needed support from the ministry, when they would struggle with getting equipment, getting cooperation from people, interested parties. But otherwise, she would not report to me as such. I allowed them to conduct their work freely without any interference. And it was the same with the commissioners and indeed the secretary, Alaji Mamadou Kurang, or Mr. Motulai Sal, who subsequently replaced him, we kept away from interfering in the Commission's work in any shape or form.
Last one, Mr. Tambadou, you said you received the report of the Janneh Commission before you depart from office. Were you able to go through the whole report before handing over to the President?
The Janneh Commission the report was handed over to the President by the Commissioners in a ceremony that was held in State House. And it was thereafter that we went through the report, the entire 9 volumes of the report, to prepare the draft white paper for Cabinet's consideration. So I personally, speaking for myself, went through the entire report in those days. I used to spend the night at the office over weekends. I would stay in my office until 5 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays to work on the white paper, because it was a voluminous report. And again, we were struggling with capacity, certain things I had to do myself. But I went through the whole report, but we prepared the white paper based on our review of the report. But the report was handed over to the President in a public ceremony at State House.
Well, going through the report, and then some of the testimonies being sent here, when it comes even to the sales, there are a lot of misappropriation into this report. When it comes to figures, you see a difference in figures. When it comes to percentage-wise, you see a lot of difference in it. And when it comes to numbering or especially, figures that we are given, they were a big gap. So, was there any, how will you call a report?
What I could say, Honorable Member for Joshua, is this. Based on the scale of the inquiry, based on the complexity, and based on the time duration that was given, it was inevitable that there would be some flaws. It was inevitable that there would be imperfections in parts of the report. Again, as I said, based on the complexity, based on the duration, and based on the scale of inquiry that was to be conducted. And so I will not be surprised if there are even inconsistencies in the report. I think that should not be held against the Commission. But overall, I think the Commission did a fantastic job. It's like you score them 9 out of 10 in everything else, and maybe 5 out of 10 in one aspect of their work. But speaking for myself, I was very satisfied, given all these issues and challenges that I have identified. I was very satisfied with their work. Nevertheless, it doesn't mean the work was perfect. I agree with you.
Thank you very much. I think I will rest my case here because I wanted to go further, and then as well the council is saying that we still hang on some certain issues. I'll give the floor to my colleagues to ask questions.
Thank you, Honorable. Honorable Janneh? Yep.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Honorable, for patiently being with us. I want to start with I just want to understand, Honorable Tambadou, in terms of the categories used to freeze some of the assets. Is there any way that you can break it down for us?
There were 3 sets of assets that we were dealing with. There was the landed properties, there was the motor vehicles, and there was the livestock and the wild animals. These were the 3 sets of assets.
The resets.
Yes.
If I may ask, out of these 3 sets, how were the master list prepared to say, for example, these are the number of vehicles, these are the number of livestock, and these are the number of properties? How was this done?
Yeah. Again, it was a very difficult exercise at the time. But so let me start with the easier ones, the motor vehicles. I have said on Monday that when the Secretary General at the time, late Dauda Fadera, consulted me about the motor vehicles, my advice to him was that any motor vehicle found on state property must be presumed to be a property of the state until the contrary is proved. That was my advice, and I don't know whether at the time they made an inventory of the motor vehicles that were there. I don't know. So I cannot comment on that. I don't also know if the Janneh Commission made an inventory of the motor vehicles that were ultimately disposed of. I cannot comment on those. In terms of the land, the landed properties, we received information from the combination of the Department of Lands and the Ministry of Local Government and Lands, and also the Registrar General's Office in the Ministry of Justice. So we compiled the 2 lists into one, and that's how we identified all the land. At that time, we also received subsequent lists of additional properties later on, and that is why there were 2 freezing orders. The first one was May 2017, and the second one was in July, because when we discovered additional properties, we also went to court to freeze those additional properties. So the landed properties were compiled from a combination of the Registrar General's Office and the Department of Lands. In terms of the livestock, now this was a more complicated process. When the freezing order was obtained and the Registrar General was entrusted with the responsibility to coordinate and work with departments like Gilmer, a part of the objective was to provide a head count of the cattle, of the cows, the goats, the sheep that the former president had. At the time, I have to say that at least in the locations where these cows were, where these animals were, those locations were under the protection of members of the Gambia Armed Forces, the Army. It was members of the Army who were providing security in these locations. And I recall there was even a minor incident between members of the PIU who wanted access into one of the locations. I'm not sure if it's Farato or elsewhere. I can't remember now. And they were denied entry by members of the Army who were on guard at the location. But just to say that even though as council would like to deduce that the lack of timely communication to Gilmer probably meant that there was some loss of cattle, at no point were the cattle unprotected between the order that was given and when the sales were conducted, because they were always under the protection of the Army. It was members of the armed forces who were in control of those locations. So this is how we were able to put together this list. There are different numbers, especially with the cattle, different figures based on what the Registrar General probably compiled, based on what the Janneh Commission compiled, and based on what the High Court compiled. We don't know. We do not know the exact figures in the end, but again, that was inevitable, because between the period when the former president left the country and the freezing order, this was between January and May, a lot of things happened in the country. And some of these cattle were, as I said, stolen, which was the reason why the government wanted to act quickly to freeze and take charge of the cattle.
Mr. Tambadou, specifically with the couples, was there at any point that it was reported to your office cattle were missing? And if so, what actions were taken by your office to remedy the situation?
Well, before the freezing order, my office had no responsibility to take charge of the cattle. This was private property. It belonged to the former president. It was up to him to put in place mechanisms to protect his assets. The state had not yet intervened to take over these assets. So my office didn't do anything until the order was made to freeze. Then the state was officially seized of the matter, and that's when the state now started to take action to prevent further dissipation. But before that point, the state had no basis to intervene because it was private property. It was property that belonged to the former president.
At what point do your ministry intervene to take an inventory of what were the belongings of the former president? At what stage? And what were handed over to your office in terms of what were the belongings of the former president?
After the freezing order, I instructed the Registrar General to go to Kanilai and to draw up an inventory of all the items that were at the former president's residence. So a long list of items was inventorized, which, by the way, I shared with this National Assembly back in 2020. It was a long list. And so that was done on my instructions at the time. Some items were also collected and handed over to the Solicitor General at the time. Gold-plated watches, stuff like that, coins, etc. I can't remember. And if I tell you that to this day I have never seen those items that were collected, you wouldn't believe it, because I wasn't interested in I keep saying, in those assets. My focus was
what we were told, those items were handed over to the former AG, and that is to say yourself.
Who said that?
Including the scanning machine.
No, scanning machine.
The
for
Euro
what?
scanning machine. The receiver said that was one of the items, that is prompt, that he handed over to your office. What is your take on that?
Well, yes, my office doesn't mean the AG.
Just you can tell us whether such items were handed over to you or not, then to determine it, that would really...
I have never set my eyes on any of the personal items of the former president. What I know is that the Solicitor General took custody of certain items and kept it in his safe, and I understand that was handed over to the Deputy Permanent Secretary when he was leaving for his foreign assignment. But I have never personally seen any items of the former president.
Who may be that Deputy Permanent Secretary?
Ms. Ramatullah Issa.
Miss
Yes.
Ramatullah Issa.
That's right.
Okay, because, you know, the reason why I'm asking all of this, Honorable, you did mention that you were the center of the Janneh Commission. If I can recall, even on Monday you said the name suggestion emerged from you to call the commission as the Janneh Commission. And aside that, with what you adduced before us, you said in identifying the lead counsel and the commissioners, the head count was done by you. But my surprise here is, in your submission, you said in the entire Janneh Commission, you didn't actually spare a minute of your time or two to actually watch the trail of the commission. That is just one of it. Two, you also said just right now to me that the items that were found to be the former president's personal items, you haven't lay an eye on them. And we had a couple of witnesses who have been attributing these items to you and your office. What can you tell this committee about these issues?
Honorable member for Joshua. Sorry, for Janjambure. Oh, sorry, that's my constituency actually. Yes. Well, yes, and just want to. I don't know what evidence was brought here, but I doubt if anyone would say that any of Janneh's assets were handed over to me personally. I would be extremely not just surprised but shocked at anyone who would say that. Certainly to my office, which is why I said they were handed over to the Solicitor General, who kept them in his safe. I have never bothered to see what they were because, as I said, the assets were not high on my priority list. I had 110 things to do at that time with a lot of pressure. We were focusing on more fundamental issues of governance. I have told you some of the activities we were undertaking at that time, and I set up the commission. Once it started functioning, I turned my attention to other activities also because, I mean, there were quite a number of them. But to say that things were handed over to me, that would not be accurate. Absolutely not.
The Euro scanning machine, it has been said.
How big is this? What is this machine about?
I have never.
What is a Euro scanning machine?
Let me say this. I have never seen the Euro scanning machine. Even when we went to the airport to actually see these items, we were not privileged to see them because the door was locked and the keys were at the ministry. So I think you should be at a better chance to actually update this committee as to what some of these items were, for the fact that you were the main, not just the main man, but your office was very central in the applications, in recruitments, and also ensuring a commission is established. So for me, you should be in a position as a former AG minister to actually update us on these items. That would be my take.
Yes, but that's my point. My point is, what is even this Euro scanning machine? I don't know what this machine means and how big. I have never seen a Euro scanning machine in my life. So I don't know. It might have been inventorized. There must have been an inventory. And the location must be somewhere, but I have no idea whether it's a big machine or it's a small portable machine. I don't know what it is about.
Honorable, could I ask whether you're referring to the gold refinery machine?
I'm referring to the Euro scanning machine. Okay. When Proms was giving his evidence, that was one of the machines he talked about, and clearly stated that he handed over to the Honorable Minister.
I suspect you may be wrong because Augustus Pom has never handed over any materials to me in person, one. But two, I'm not sure if he ever handed any materials to the ministry. So it would be good to refer to the part of the testimony where...
No, that would take us long. We will leave it as it is. And we will probe further. We will go back to prompt submission and actually establish what exactly the machine was. Because equally, I was interested to see how the machine was like. But unfortunately, when we went to where it was kind of kept, we couldn't really have an access at the airport.
But if it was handed over to the ministry, why is it at the airport?
Well, remember, including the gold refinery machines.
Yes.
These are heavy equipments that I believe would be hard to transport or move from one place to the other. So as such, they are left at where they used to be, but still under the custody of the Ministry of Justice.
Honorable, yes, quickly. So I think what we will do is, because I think the member is interested with Mr. Prom's testimony on that particular issue. So maybe we'll alert the IT perhaps to check on that, and tomorrow we will have it so that we can refresh our minds and be able to ask the question that we wanted from you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Honorable, I understand that you used to have a big influence on the commission. Don't laugh there, you said it here. Huh? You said you were single-handedly kind of recruiting individuals, the likes of Ami Bensouda, who you referred to as a friend, the likes of Baimas, who equally you referred to as a friend, and also Mr. Mamadou Kurang, who you said was one time a head boy of a school that you both attended. But then you withheld to say he is a friend. Why is it that these other two are friends and Mr. Kurang is not a friend?
I never said Ami Bensouda was a friend. Ami Bensouda was a professional colleague. Alaji Kurang I knew from school. I would call by Masen a friend, certainly, absolutely. Yeah.
What prompted the sacking of Kurang? Because it is going to lead me to something else, and I cannot ask that without asking you this. Even you answered the council about it.
Well, there was a dispute at the commission between Kurang and the lead council, and the lead council could no longer work with him. The commissioners, each one of the three, told me they could no longer work with him, and so therefore I had to take action.
When the three commissioners were telling you that they cannot work with Mr. Kurang, was that done formally, or you just engaged them at individual level?
All three of them came to my office. We held a meeting.
You held a meeting?
Yes.
So, meaning there should be a minute to that effect of that meeting, considering the fact that you were dealing with a sensitive matter, and also considering the fact that it is a state issue, and as such, it will be important to have a track of records. Was this meeting with the commissioners documented?
Council, you know, in law, evidence can be in two forms. It could be in the form of witnesses or in the form of documentary evidence. I know you insist on minutes. I have just given you a rundown of our activities in the first 3 months. If I give you a rundown of our activities in the first 1 year, you would be shocked at the list of things we had to do, including the bills and the commissions we were setting up, the consultations, etc. No, there were no minutes of that meeting, but the commissioners are here, all 3 of them. They're still alive. You can find out from them.
Yeah, now let me just conclude that the trend of the commission, including the then AG minister, was to converge, discuss without taking records or minutes of their discussions.
For ad hoc meetings, yes, we wouldn't take minutes, but for that's exactly, it was exactly for that reason why I introduced for the first time in the ministry the role of a personal assistant. I had no personal assistant. It was not a practice at the ministry, but I realized that I needed someone to help me organize my diary, my calendar, to be present in my meetings and to jot down notes. And that's why I started the practice of getting a personal assistant to help me do that. But this all occurred gradually over time as time went on.
Now you make life easy for me, because that was one question I was going to ask. Will you share with this committee the name of that personal assistant? No, it's serious, because you know what happened? There are things that we might not get from you, but we might shift to her or to him. Considering the fact that he was sending emails for you, booking appointments for you, and taking minutes of meetings on your behalf. And, you know.
Trust me, Honorable, if there are any minutes of meetings or any documents or any facts whatsoever that you would like to know, I will tell you as it is. Believe me.
I'm not disagreeing, Honorable. You know, on Monday you said you are having challenge with memory due to age. I think you said so. So there might be important elements that you might forget to share with this committee on the basis of age or memory. So to equip ourselves would be to leverage on those that were available in the course of when you were executing some of these duties?
I think so far I have been doing well to answer almost all your questions. So if I get to a point where I can't remember a critical issue, I'll certainly go back to my emails, which I'll share with Council as I promised. And if there are additional questions after that, then I'll be happy. But whatever you will get from my personal assistant at that time, it must have been shared with me after.
Yes, Honorable. It will be of interest to share the name of that personal assistant in camera.
I like to protect my civil servants.
No, because, you know, in this situation, she cannot be protected. Do you know why? She was dealing with classified documents.
I'm not sure.
Let me just learn, Honorable. Dealing with you alone as a state minister would actually privilege that particular person to certain confidential documents of the government. And having someone been privileged to such documents who is not hired by the government or by the ministry could really be a serious issue. This is why I want to know this individual, if possible, her names.
I think
And if I can understand, was she hired by the government or you just brought this individual in to assist you?
I think you're confusing two roles here. Were you talking about the special advisor on transitional justice whose post was funded by the UK government?
No, I'm talking about the personal assistant.
Yes, the personal assistant.
Who was working with you.
Yes.
What first I want to establish here is, was she hired by the government to be attached to you as a personal assistant, or you did that at your discretion?
No, she was a staff member of the ministry who was performing a dual role as well as her normal duties as counsel in the office. She was also supporting me as my personal assistant. But I'm not sure whether at the time that I was dealing with the Janneh Commission, I had already initiated the idea of a personal assistant. But in any event, what she would do, she didn't have access to confidential documents. She was helping me organize my diary. She was helping to take notes.
Honorable, to cut it short, kindly take a piece of paper, write down the name of this personal assistant for us. If you don't have a paper, I can help. There is a sheet of paper, and you can pass it to the councils. That will make life easy for all of us. And then I can move to my next question, just to save some time. Chair, I want him to share the name of that personal assistant with us, especially knowing the fact that she was a staff of the Ministry of Justice, meaning she is a public servant. So basically, it will be definitely ideal if Honorable can provide us with the name.
That's okay. I didn't want to involve. I was going to allow him to ask his question. And I don't know. At what point are you? Would you be able to?
In camera, she don't have to call on her name.
Yes.
She can just write it and pass it to the councils. Then we will take it up from there.
Can you remember the name?
Of course, I know the person, Mr. Chair, except that my position, as I said on Monday, is one of principle. I want to protect civil servants from this, and there is no reasonable basis for this request. If Honorable Janneh believes that I am withholding evidence and he wants to find out from a different source, then that would be a legitimate basis for making this. Okay, but so far he has not indicated that I am not being forthcoming, so I don't know what the objective would
Honorable
be
Chair,
to
could I assist?
provide.
Counsel?
Yes, I would want to unfortunately side with Honorable Janneh on this issue. Now, the manner in which the evidence is given is up to the committee. I'm of the view that it can be given on record. But if the committee is amenable to him writing, that is up to the committee.
Certainly. In fact, I was going to say, maybe, I mean, it's not about protecting the civil servant. You know, already we have a host of names on our witness list. It's not a problem. You can write the name on a piece of paper and submit it to us, and we will take it from there.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable, now I want us to shift to one of the commissioners and also your personal friend. That is by mass. Was there any point in time that you were aware about certain leakages in between by mass and one of the potential witnesses to the then Janneh Commission by the name Aisha Fati?
I don't know why Aisha Fati's name keeps coming up in this inquiry.
My honorable member is really, you know.
But anyway, Council, I don't know. I have seen, you know, I mean, I don't take those things seriously. I didn't take them seriously at the time as well.
Why is it that you don't take such seriously having a commissioner?
Could you verify the authenticity of those exchanges?
You want me to verify?
Yes, as a lawyer, that's what I would do.
Okay.
Because I couldn't verify the authenticity.
I just want to apply that we have by mass Sen and Aisha Fati as a witness as soon as possible, as soon as we can, to collaborate, you know, these facts. Because I know if they are before us here, we will get the facts. It's either they speak or we go out there to get the facts. Because the reason why I ask this is this. Mamadou Kurang was sacked as a Secretary General simply because he had a disagreement with the lead counsel and, if possible, the commissioners. But also, we have a commissioner. We have a commissioner who, you know, that his messages were out there in the public, discussing with a particular witness and kind of trying to compromise on certain dealings of the commission. In a situation, these allegations are true. Don't you think that could have actually compromised the integrity of the then Janneh Commission?
I would say two things, Council. Honorable Member for Janjambue. The first is that I said I don't take these things seriously because in this day and age, things get made up, and I don't want to comment on things that I cannot verify or confirm, or whose authenticity I can't confirm in any way, shape, or form. And two, really, if you believe that that exchange, even assuming if it were true, had led to an unfair or favorable or preferential treatment, and that it has affected the work of the commission as a whole, then you can point to that. Because from what I know...
Thank you. Let me give you a scenario.
But if I just complete, because from what I know, Aisha Fati was ultimately removed from the property that was the subject of the inquiry as well. So I don't know how she had benefited from this purported exchange with one of the commissioners. But in any event, like I said, as a lawyer, I would treat such information with a lot of caution because I cannot verify the authenticity of those exchanges.
Okay. We can forget about the authenticity as it is. We will really prove that, yes, or kind of see it as an information that wasn't really as authentic as, one may assume it to be. However, I would say there were special preferences that Isa was given. The chair you sat in when the then acting Registrar General came before us, he said, one of the things he said here, that is Mr. Aliu Jallo, is when he went with the team to meet with Aisha, it was almost not possible, one. Even when they met, Aisha came with a title deed with a military letterhead, insisting that the property belongs to her, and the property was given to her by a former official of the former regime. Not only stopping there, in the presence of your own staff, he said it here, Aisha was calling someone, either in cabinet or state house or wherever, communicating with this individual. And at some point, it was realized that the communications that Aisha was making actually restricted them to execute their duties. And from the reports we get, from the evidence we gathered so far, it seems that plot of land, in fact, or property, is been given back to Aisha. What is your take on this?
I suppose the assumption at the time was that Aisha was talking to me. Huh?
No, not you.
Okay.
For the purpose of clarity, not you.
Okay. Well, for the avoidance of doubt and for the record, I have never met Aisha Fati. I have never spoken with Aisha Fati, either live or on telephone. I have never had anything to do with Aisha Fati. That's one, for the record. And two, yes, indeed, when the Registrar General, Mr. Jallo, came back from serving notices, the first stage is to serve a notice to a tenant so that they can leave after a period of time. So they were going around serving these notices. And when he came back to me to report that when they were serving a notice, and Aisha pulled out a letter, a purported letter with the heading of the Gambia Armed Forces on it. And I told them, my response was, don't execute the eviction notice, because I want to see what is contained in that letter. I believe I saw your exchange with Mr. Jallo when you were telling him that a letter is not sufficient to show title to land. I believe Mr. Jallo missed an opportunity to enlighten the committee, and perhaps even council also missed the opportunity. But you see, Mr. Janneh, Honorable Janneh,
we will appreciate if you can guide us or take us through that opportunity.
Yes, I did inform them to suspend for three reasons. The first reason, that her lawyer called me, if I'm not mistaken, it was Mr. Abdullah Sissoho, to tell me about the fact that Aisha is claiming ownership of the property, and that he would write a letter to convey that claim. I think he subsequently did. But anyway, the lawyer reached out to me to inform me about that. So that's one reason why I would ask my team to hold on, because the property wasn't going anywhere, and she was serving a notice period anyway. But secondly, out of respect for the institution of the army, I told them to hang on until I can verify the contents of that letter. You see, Council, when I travel around the world...
Honorable, I'm not a council.
Sorry, Honorable. I'm sorry, Honorable. Council has been battering me all day, so I keep saying Council. Honorable, sorry for that. When I travel around the world and I see how other countries treat their men and women in uniform, the deference, the preferential treatment, the respect they accord them. I ask why we don't do the same in our own backyard. And because of the fundamental respect I have for an institution like the army, anybody who produces any letter under the heading of the army, I would give that communication consideration. So because of that, I asked them to hold on until I can verify the contents of that letter. And thirdly, just so you know, in law, agreements for the sale or transfer of land, and this is a sacrosanct principle in land law, agreements for the sale or transfer of land must be in writing or evidenced in writing. Evidenced in writing. So that means that evidence could come in different forms. And until I am sure about the contents of that letter and what it conveys, I really wouldn't want to act hastily, because in certain cases, land has been allocated provisionally through a letter. I think Social Security does that before they process leases. And so for those three reasons, I did instruct Mr. Jallo to hold on about the eviction, not about the servicing of the notice, but about the eviction until I can verify that I can verify the circumstances of that letter. So for these three reasons, I did tell Mr. Jallo to hold on.
Okay. That is very clear, Honorable. But then, in a situation where a government official work with an official title deed to pursue for a particular property, should a mere purported letter from the army restrict personnel from executing their duties? Because this is in between a letter and a title deed. And for me, as you have alluded in terms of, documentations around land, it should be something that is writing. This is my understanding as well. However, the write-up to indicate an ownership of a land must go through a process. And I'm not too sure if a letter from the army will qualify someone to claim for an ownership of a land against an official title deed from the lands department. So I'm not still convinced. If only you give me another justification to understand around my head.
Okay, Honorable. I think what Mr. Jallo and his team were doing were to serve notices. It was not a title deed. They were serving notices, right? And at that point, they were not even evicting tenants. They were just serving notices to inform them that on a certain date, they should vacate the premises, otherwise they will be evicted. It was at the stage of serving the notice that this letter was brought out. And because we don't know the contents of the letter, there was no harm in holding on the eviction process while we verify the contents of that letter. So that was the whole point here, that they do not act until we are sure that her claim to title was not tenable.
That is clear. Were you able to verify?
I think, as Mr. Jallo said, the commission took over that matter at some point, and the ministry was no longer dealing with it.
Okay, we will take it up with the commission anytime they are here.
I think you want to bring me trouble at home with my wife. I'm not sure it's happy here.
No, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. Honorable, now I want us to look at the issue of Augustus Prom, the receiver, because I think we have been talking about the receiver since Monday. And it will be of importance to actually, have some clarity around the receivers. I understand Augustus Proms was appointed by the courts, right?
On our request, on the request of the ministry.
Yeah, but then
Yes.
the appointment was validated by the court, the High Court, right?
Yeah.
During this process, what was the agreed terms in terms of payments with Proms?
We negotiated to pay them 10% commission fee. It was the standard industry practice fee, yes.
When was there at any time that you rearrange for the fees to be reduced with Mr. Proms?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Honorable Chair, I want to apply again that we get the submission of Mr. Proms in relation to his payments, that is the percentage, and also the renegotiation of the payments. Because if I can recall, Prompt clearly stated that yes, the agreed percentage was 10%, but at some point, his attention was called by you
To do what?
to renegotiate on the payment plans to reduce from 10 to 3%, and that he disagreed to.
It was, I believe, Honorable, you are mistaken. It was,
Now what you do, Honorable, that's a good one. I will prefer something, because we will get to that. You remember, we are going to the issue of that.
No, I think I'm getting it wrong. It's not him. It should be the lead counsel
counsel,
who
yes.
discuss it with
Yes.
with him.
We will
Yeah,
get-
but you also supervise the lead counsel.
no, I did not supervise the lead.
No, of course, you were managing the commission
No, I was not the
by
commissioner.
giving them money, recommending who to appoint, and sacking people that you think were not serving a purpose. I don't think you can deny that, Honorable. This is exactly what was happening. You said it clearly.
Should I respond to that?
Yes, you
Because
can.
It sounds like you're making a statement. I don't know, but just for the record, Honorable, when you set up a commission, an independent commission, after setting it up, you allow it to function independently. None of the commissions that were set up under the transitional justice process, at least the key personnel, were all identified by me, be it the Truth Commission, the TRRC, be it the Constitutional Review Commission, the National Human Rights Commission. All of those commissions where the key personnel were identified by me. But it doesn't mean I had control or I managed them. Once they are set up and they start working, I turn to the next commission to also set up that commission. So to say that I was managing, I was sacking, I was, it's a little bit giving me too much power that I didn't have.
No, Honorable, you are the one who soldiered those powers. You said it. You said you are ready to take any responsibility
For what?
around the Janneh Commission.
No, I never said that. When did I say that?
Here, this morning.
No, not at all. I mean, I never said that. On Monday, I did say that insofar as the Ministry of Justice is concerned, I will take political responsibility any day, any time for things that went sideways. But
No.
the Janneh Commission was an independent commission. We have not even discussed the details of the commission
Okay.
yet.
Now let's take it this way. Knowing that Proms was appointed by the courts through the recommendations of MOJ.
Through my recommendation.
Okay.
Yes.
Through your recommendation, how were you able to reconcile in between Proms' appointment as a receiver and Alpha Capital? How are you able to reconcile this? Because my understanding also is the time that Alpha Capital was appointed, Trump was still serving as a receiver. Is that right?
Honorable, allow me to cut you short. I just have to intervene. Like I said earlier, your question is valid. You're putting the cart before the horse now. That question is relevant. Perhaps when we get to the issues of the receivers, then we can bring that issue. Otherwise, I mean, you'll be responding to the question when we have not dealt with the issues of the receiver. If you please allow, perhaps to concentrate more on the commission, and then we leave the issue of the receiver until we deal with that tomorrow.
I may allow, Chair, but with all due respect, one of the issues that took almost the whole day here is conflict of interest.
I understand.
And it seems that's where I am drawing at. And for me, if we are not careful with these thematic areas, there will be a lot of questions that might really escape us, considering the time. So for me, it's better we flow as we have the witness before us. That is just my thinking. Otherwise, I can definitely agree.
I get your point. That's why I said the question is very valid. And I know you still have the opportunity to ask the same question tomorrow. But that will be at a time when we are dealing with the receivers. You understand? Then your question will come, because maybe you will have an opportunity to hear something from the witness and to add that to your question again.
Okay, you know me, I'm a badibunga. Let me move on more.
All right, that's fine.
Honorable, you have talked about companies in between you and the council. Maybe I didn't get it right, but my question is, part of the companies that the Janneh Commission was investigating, were there foreign companies involved?
I mean, you mean the state-owned enterprises?
Generally, companies. Even if you talk about the offshore companies, I'll be very much happy, which would represent companies registered outside the Gambia.
There were companies that were operating in the country, but which had offices outside the country. So, for example, MGI. I think the Janneh Commission also probed into the activities of MGI, which was present in the country, but which also had offices, I believe it was in Switzerland.
What may be LGI?
MGI.
MGI.
Yes.
It's an abbreviation, right?
Yes.
Can you give us the full name if you know?
I have to look for the name. I cannot remember at the top of my head now.
And you said they have an account in Swaziland?
No, they were set up here, but I believe they have, or they had an office in Switzerland. I'm not sure whether it's MGI, but there were certainly companies that were operating in the country, but which had offices also outside the country.
Yeah, you are on point. And it will interest me to know more about this office in Geneva. Because if you go to volume 5 of the white paper, one of the issues reported is specifically about this account you're talking about. I know the account number, I have it written, black and white, and I just want to understand, what were your interventions in terms of probing into these foreign accounts? And do you know the balance in these accounts during the time?
Well, we had no jurisdiction to probe into an account that is based in another country. We could only focus on the companies that were operating inside the country. But nevertheless, I recall that following the Janneh Commission's recommendations and conclusions, we had written to the Swiss government to ask them to freeze the accounts of 1 or 2 companies which had monies as a result of the findings of the Janneh Commission. So some foreign company accounts were frozen by the Swiss government as a result of the request by the Ministry of Justice at the time, following the conclusion of the Janneh Commission.
And those accounts were frozen?
Yes, the Swiss government acted on our behalf to freeze those assets.
Okay. I think we will wait for the officials of Janneh Commission, maybe to serve us with the names of those companies and how much were in some of these accounts, just to keep us up to date, because that wouldn't be fair to ask you that question. Hmm? Yes. Now, I think we can talk about Alpha Capital, right, my uncle? Or you want us to?
I actually wanted us to.
Honorable, if you want to wait for all of these things here,
You know the issue of Alpha Capital and Augustus Prom and all that. That will come tomorrow. We have a whole day on that. So you see, you will have an opportunity to hear from the witness during the interrogation or the cross-examination between him and counsel. Then you will be able to, get the weapons right.
No, I got my weapons right, maybe.
No, I have more weapons, let me say. You get more weapons to add on the question you're going to ask then. That's fine.
Okay, I agreed, sir. Honorable Minister, can you give us an idea as to, in June 2020, 30th June 2020, how much was frozen and how much was recovered? If you can provide us some reconciliations in terms of the assets and properties that were recovered at June 2020.
When you say frozen, I don't understand. Can you clarify?
I think there were properties that you freeze and bank accounts.
Yes, in 2017.
In 2017, yes.
That's
So
right.
this is why now I'm in fact pushing it to 2020 instead of in fact 2017, because I understand there were some members of the public who also came forward to surrender certain assets or properties that were aligned to the former president to a receiver, which I understand. This is why I am bringing it to 2020, understanding the fact that you were also in office until 2020. I don't want to ask you anything that, you might not be privy to.
I am not aware of any properties that were surrendered to the receiver at that time. I certainly know that additional properties were being discovered on a rolling basis, and I think the Janneh Commission, in fact, did make that observation in the report that the list that they have compiled was not certainly exhaustive, and that more properties could be discovered subsequently. So I will not be surprised that additional properties were discovered, but they wouldn't have been handed over to the receiver, certainly not. They would have been handed over to the government. Yes.
I think there is this property and whatever building materials that were handed over to a particular receiver. That is Alpha Capital, that is Jar Oil, the property in Brikama, and the equipments found on the property were only identified after the Janneh Commission term elapsed. And if you are telling us there was nothing like that done with a receiver, is that not in the contrary?
No, because I know that all the properties that the receiver sold were pursuant to specific identifications done by the ministerial committee. So the ministerial committee identified the properties and handed them over to the receiver to sell. So that's why I am a little bit surprised that.
Yeah, this one, the receiver said, Jar Oil walked to his office and informed him about the property either in Jamisa or wherever, but certainly I know it's in Brikama.
It's a landed property, it's land?
I would say equipment.
It's not land, so
Yes,
equipment.
equipment.
Okay.
But they are very expensive equipments that can buy me 10 properties today.
Were they sold by the receiver? That's why we made a lot
He
of...
sold it back to Jar Oil himself.
So,
Okay.
He sold it to Jar Oil himself. What will be your take for someone to wait until after, when Janneh Commission submitted their report, a ministerial task force constituted and a receiver appointed to the effect for Jar Oil to approach a receiver and make that, whether so-called confession or whatever, to the receiver, and also get those stuffs to himself?
If you ask me as a Sahule man, my preoccupation would be, was it sold below the value of those assets? If it was not sold below the value of those assets, I personally don't have a problem with that.
Okay, for me, I would say they were sold way below.
Really?
Yes.
There was no valuation
And in
done.
fact, there was valuation done. The valuer is no more alive, unfortunately. But even the receiver himself, at some point, could agree with us that the valuation does not seem to be accurate. And also, the classification of those equipments doesn't seem to be transparent, neither, serve a purpose.
I don't know.
And you being the then minister, I think you should be in a position to enlighten us. For me, you should in fact be in a privilege to know about these equipments.
As a professional, I will never question the professionalism of others. If there is a valuer who has valued equipment, I have no basis to question that valuation, because that's not my expertise, that's their expertise. So I may think in my head that a certain equipment or property is worth $10, whereas the valuer thinks it's worth $1,000 or it's worth $2. So I try to respect the professional opinion of others.
Yeah, but my question is not answered. You brought in the valuation thing. My question even was not around the valuation. My question was, is it right for Mr. Hamidou Jah to start over those equipments until after the Janneh Commission to report about those equipments to Mr. Berry, that is Alpha Berry, as a receiver, considering the fact that the number of press conferences you have executed as a minister then? Don't you think that was enough as an alert for every other Gambian who was associated to anything that is related to Janneh to go surrender him or herself?
There's a cardinal principle of natural justice, which is you must hear all sides to a story before you form an opinion. And I am hearing this for the first time. I don't know what Mr. Jah's version will be, and I would accord him the decency and wait to hear his version before I can form an opinion on that.
Chair, maybe Honorable want us to invite Hamidou Jah later. We invite him. I think he still want to come back.
But that's okay. That's okay. In fact, I wanted to intervene earlier on, but I just wanted the question to flow. The committee, obtained a statement from Hamidou. Of course, we will look into that. Yet the question is valid, Honorable. We can proceed with other things, but when the statement comes, then you can reconcile. Already, you have the facts from the receiver. He told us something. Yes, he asked that question. We will reconcile with the statement of Jah, and of course, we will get back to that.
Yes.
No, Chair.
Well, if I may just comment for you, you seem to be passionate about justice. And I think it's a good thing, but I would also encourage you that justice is about treating people fairly. And that includes listening to all sides of a story before you form an opinion. It's a cardinal principle of the rules of natural justice. We call it ode alteram partem. Listen to all sides before you form an opinion. I'm just saying, you have the passion already. You perhaps need to, perhaps you need to go.
No.
I'm just helping you to.
No, Honorable,
strengthen.
I quite agree with you.
Yes.
This is why I'm using this opportunity to do everything possible to hear your version, more especially after hearing from Mr. Barry. This is why I'm according you that opportunity to also hear the side of what you think as a technocrat with some of these happenings. For me, I don't think you have to hear from Mr. Hamidou Jah, with all due respect,
You do.
for you to form an opinion
You do, Honorable. That's
as a lawyer.
That's a very dangerous assumption right there.
No, for me, I'm not making assumptions. I'm really seeking for clarities. Because me, I know very well in my mind that Honorable Tambadou, I might not be even be able to count the number of press conferences you have conducted when Janneh left after the impasse. And me, my belief was every other genuine Gambian who has an interest in the development and the dispensation of democracy in this country should have listened to what was coming from you, not you as an individual, but what was coming from the government through your office in order to respond. So for me, I am baffled here that Mohammed Jah only came out to inform Alpha Bari about those items.
Honorable,
No.
can you clarify? Not Mohammed, yeah?
Hamidou Jah. Thank you. I'm very sorry. Hamidou Jah. That he only appeared after the commission and when a new receiver was assigned. And he don't only engage with the receiver to inform him about the existence of those equipments, but they have gone further to sell back those materials to Mr. Hamidou Jah. And this is where my question is at. And I don't think it should be difficult to provide an answer for this. To be honest, with all due respect, Honorable Minister, I find you to be very cooperative. No, with all honesty, you have been very, very cooperative, and we cannot treat this specific matter special.
It's Honorable.
If I may ask, what really influenced your press conferences in relation to Janneh's assets?
It was not only with respect to Janneh's assets.
No, specifically, because I don't want us to broaden the discussion.
Well, I wanted to keep the Gambian people informed of the progress in our activities in the name of transparency and openness. That's why I said right from the start that I have been a strong advocate of transparency. And so I wanted to keep you. I'm glad you found my press conferences helpful. But I wanted to make sure that the Gambian people knew what was going on, what we were doing, what our plans were, etc. Because whatever we were doing, it was being done for and on behalf of the Gambian people.
Was it not also that you were doing the press conferences in order to avoid more damages to properties or belongings associated to the former president? Was that also not one of the issues?
Absolutely, yes. That was part of the reason why I would.
How will you feel after 2 years for someone to come from nowhere to say ABCD is associated to the former president and further purchase those materials at his or her convenience? What will be your take on this?
Without hearing their side of the story,
Now let's not forget, we are not talking about Jar Oil now. Now I sent you an open question.
It's the same answer. I have to hear both sides of the story before I could form an opinion or speak my mind, counsel. It's just the list I was trained to do as a lawyer.
Okay, I wouldn't push much. Inshallah, we will get Mr. Jah in your that seat, and yeah, we will get the clarity. And after that, I will make a special application for Mr. Tambadou or Honorable Tambadou to come back and give clarity.
Are you going to pay for my fare to come back? Because no one paid for this one.
I may do a GoFund.
Okay.
GoFundMe. And I think the council will contribute maybe $1,000. The chair maybe $500. Then we can buy an air ticket. I think it might just be a very final one. Honorable Tambadou, when the former president left, how were you able to identify potential witnesses or associates to Janneh? How do you come about with this?
How did we identify, did you say witnesses or associates?
Let me in fact say associates.
Associates.
To former president.
Yes. Some of them are a matter of public knowledge. Others were left to the commission, and that is why the commission during its proceedings would from time to time designate someone as a close associate of the former president. So the commission has done that a number of times. Once it establishes the evidence that was sufficient to designate someone as a close associate of the former president, it did so.
Okay.
Yes.
I wouldn't go further because the council tomorrow,
Okay.
we will trust the rest around that. Okay. My final question is, were you aware of any asset declaration form that was administered by the Janneh Commission for witnesses?
I think I am aware generally that as part of its procedural steps in the inquiry, the Janneh Commission requested witnesses to complete an assets declaration form. So this was part of the procedures.
It was part of the procedures. Thank you very much. Why is it that the administered asset declaration form or forms did not form part of the white paper report?
The government white paper.
The government white paper. Why the administered asset declaration form does not form part of the Janneh Commission report? Because I haven't seen anything from volume 1 to 9.
Oh, you mean the report, not the white paper?
Report.
The report. Well, you know, you have the report, the substantive report, and then you have the materials that were collected in the course of the investigations. If I were to say that if you, for example, look at the other commissions and their reports, say the Truth Commission report, or the Constitutional Review Commission report, even though they had interviewed witnesses, they have been back and forth, etc., you don't see those as part of their reports, right? That's because those are investigative materials. They are work products of the investigators, and usually they are not accompanied. They are not they do not accompany the report. They are referenced as annexures, because when the Janneh Commission was submitting the investigations documents that were compiled. There were boxes and boxes and boxes of materials. And these boxes included the asset declaration forms, the statements that were taken from the witnesses, the cautionary statements in the case of witnesses who were cautioned, etc. So there have been a number of documents, different kinds of documents that were all compiled, and I believe that's where the asset declaration forms would be, and they were submitted to the ministry.
They were submitted to the ministry.
Indeed, absolutely.
And it will be possible to lay hand on those, right?
I should think so. They
You
should
should
be
think
at the
so.
ministry, yep.
Okay, Chair. I understand the Honorable Minister don't have time to really go out there and get us some of these documents. I want to apply that the Ministry of Justice to serve us with the asset declaration forms that were administered by yes, the asset declaration form that were administered by the then commission. I think it will be very important to have it. I just want to think about the numbers, but it's a lot. But we would love to have these forms for a very, very genuine reason. Thank you.
That's fine. That's okay. We will, like I said, we will determine on the request of the minister tomorrow. Once we do that, if we are going to get those documents from the ministry ourselves, then we'll put everything together and request it.
Yes, this is why I just want us to note it in case time is not on his side. I don't want my son to, partly he should enjoy his holiday. Finally, I think this is all that I have, Honorable, and thank you for your time.
We will still have to wait for a bit, at least 10, 15 more minutes. Honorable Sir, you have a few more questions to address before we...
Sorry, don't punish me when I go back. Honorable, just a quick one. With regards to the late counsel, you made mention that she was assisted by 2 lawyers from her own firm. Who was shouldering their bills?
I'm not sure I said she was assisted by 2 lawyers from her firm. I know that I sent 1 or 2 lawyers. We sent 1 or 2 lawyers from the ministry, again, as part of my capacity building efforts. I think she was assisted by lawyers from her office. I don't know how many, but we certainly did not pay those lawyers who were coming, who were assisting her from her chambers.
There was no expenditure on those lawyers.
We did not pay those lawyers anything. Our payment was to lead counsel.
Honorable, you made mention about the advice you gave to Mr. Fadera to collect vehicles that are within government premises that were owned by the former president. Was it right for vehicles to be collected that were given away by the former president to individuals?
Now, the first part of the question, the premise of the question was that were owned by the former president. That's exactly the point. We couldn't determine what was owned by the former president and what was owned by the state because there was no distinction between ownership. I mean, there was no distinction in the ownership of these vehicles. I think I used the term, the famous term, l'état c'est moi. In a typical authoritarian system, the line is blurred between the state and the head of state. So because we didn't know who owned the vehicles, the assumption was made that if they were found on state property, they belong to the state until the contrary is proved. So if anyone came with evidence to show that they own the properties, then the state should hand over those properties to them. Absolutely.
But with the issue of vehicles that were owned by, that were given to individuals, and in those documents that were owned by them, those vehicles were given by the head of state.
Yes.
Let's say you gave a vehicle to Srifshar.
Yes.
I registered in my name.
Yes.
Later on, it was seized by the commission. Was that right?
Well, that would not have been right. If the vehicles were in the individual names of people, then certainly that would go against my advice, because then you can clearly identify the owner of that vehicle. So that would not have been right.
Honorable Minister, this thing happens, and then the other thing, just to the final one, vehicles that were owned by a party that he was leading were also seized by the commission. They were given to individuals. Vehicles that were given to individuals within the party were seized.
Well, if they were not in the names of individuals, then I wouldn't say the act of taking over those vehicles was unreasonable. But going to your earlier question, if they were given to individuals in their names, that would have been improper. Absolutely.
So what should they do now?
Well, I don't know whether there's a particular case that you have in mind. But
There are many cases with regards to this.
there are many cases. Well, that would have been unfortunate. But my advice was, if they were found on state property, until the contrary is proved, and in this case, the contrary proof will be the vehicle in the name of these individuals. That would have been sufficient proof for me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tambadou. While you were responding, I have a few more questions to ask. And one of the questions will be on the issue of the lead counsel. You remember the issue of conflict of interest. And then for this commission, with that issue, I mean, we definitely want to establish facts. But I wouldn't want to ask that. I will allow counsel to take up that, either today or tomorrow, for more clarification, perhaps to establish the fact, like you said, because it's a fact-finding mission. We have heard your side of the story, but we also have facts to put to you, maybe just to balance the story.
Honorable Chair, I do have a series of clarifications, but I would suggest that looking at the faces in the room, we adjourn now. I believe this is a convenient time to take an adjournment, and I would commence from there first thing in the morning.
Fair enough, fair enough. But before you go, like I said earlier on, I have few questions. But these questions, I think, will be related to what the council is going to bring tomorrow. I am tempted to ask certain questions for clarification on the aeroplanes and all that. But I will leave them till tomorrow. We will be able to ask those questions freely so that we can get clarifications on that. So at this point, we will have to release you, and then we will continue with it from tomorrow until Friday.
Would it be possible to start earlier, or you have something?
Yes, definitely we wanted to start at 10. You know, we have a problem. The problem is parliamentary session starts at 10 o'clock.
That is true.
And normally, I mean, if there is no quorum, it is difficult for us to be here when session, I mean, cannot have quorum. So we have to be there to go and meet the quorum, and then we can come down. So we are planning to start at 10 o'clock tomorrow, if possible. Even if you're going to start, I'm sure plenary will have to, perhaps will start at a bit further than 10. Then we'll be here, then we can stand down, go there, meet the quorum, and come back again if there is not. But we definitely want to start at 10 o'clock.
You want me to be here by 10?
By 10, yes. 10 o'clock will be fine tomorrow. We definitely want to start 10 o'clock because tomorrow we have a lot to cover. And we also want to apply that the committee perhaps will sit longer than the expected time we close. Tomorrow we'll be here until around 7 to 8 o'clock, just to make sure that we cover most of the areas.
Honorable Chair, I just want to make an observation. We are actually leaving at around 8
Today.
today. So I believe tomorrow we can do 10.
10 at night.
Yes. Please. So that we can. All right. Just for your consideration.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Tambadou. We release you for today, and then we will adjourn the meeting till tomorrow, Thursday. Tomorrow is on the 18th, huh? 18th of September 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
All right.